We're so excited. We're so excited to welcome you to our training session on igniting science instruction with AI tools. Today, we're diving into how artificial intelligence can give us spark to our science lessons, making them more engaging, effective, and personalized to our learners. But before we jump in, let's hear from you. I'd like to get a quick sense of where is everyone at when it comes to differentiation using AI tools in classrooms. This is an overview of the session before we start. The introduction. What is differentiation? Differentiation using AI in lower elementary. I'll be presenting this part. Differentiation using AI in middle school. Ms. Taghreed Al-Rais will be presenting this part. Differentiation using AI in upper elementary. Mrs. Lamar Hakim will be presenting this part. And at the end, we're going to discuss together the challenges and the benefits of differentiation using AI. So in order to discuss few things, please. You're sharing? You're sharing?
It's not sharing. Yeah.
Can you see our screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, that's great. So before we start, let's discuss together a few things. We have prepared a Mentimeter survey, a short one, 5 questions. So please scan the code or go to menti.com and join using the code shown on the screen. And we're going to share the link with you in the chat. So you can just follow the link to answer the questions. The link is sent in the chat. Okay, so the first question is, why do we differentiate? It's a multiple choice question. To promote equity, to boost engagement and motivation, or to support diverse classrooms? We're going to share our screen so we can see the answers together. So far, the most common answer is to support diverse classrooms. There is no right or wrong answer. We're just brainstorming together and discussing things, and we're gonna discuss all the answers throughout the session. Okay, let's jump into the second question. What is differentiation? Using different techniques that responds to each child's way of learning, focusing on the type of intelligence they have. That's great. It means creating tailored instructions that would meet the diverse needs of learners. Great. Learning experiences in which the approach or method of learning is adjusted to meet the needs of individual students, focusing on the how of personalized learnings. Great. Implementing activities adapted to different learning profiles, academic strengths, and weaknesses. Perfect. Level of readiness. Differentiation is tailoring lessons to fit all learners. Great. So all what has been mentioned is correct. That's great. Let's jump into the third question. What AI tools do you use to help you differentiate in your classrooms? Can you name some of the AI tools you use in classrooms? Magic School AI, okay. Canva, yes. What else?
Edpuzzle.
Edpuzzle, great.
Gamma also.
Gamma, that's great. Anything else?
Different application.
Yeah, different applications. Okay. Risk, Gemini, ChatGPT. Yes. That's great. And the last question is, what are the challenges you face when differentiating in your classrooms?
Challenges sometimes are that students do not have the equipment themselves. Maybe if we are moving into laptops or iPads in classrooms, maybe things might become easier.
Okay, that's great. Lack of resources, time restrictions, and space. Good. Increased planning. This is what we are going to tackle this session. Managing logistics and overcoming resistance. Yes. Number of learners, space of classroom. Correct. That's great. So let's go back to our presentation so we can discuss all what that has been mentioned. I would like to start with a quote. You can see our PowerPoint.
Yes,
Yes.
we can.
That's great. So I'd like to start our session with a quote that really captures the heart of differentiation. Fair is not everyone getting the same thing. Fair is everyone getting what they need to be successful. Rick Riordan, an American author. Let's take a moment to reflect on that. In our classrooms, it's very easy to fall into the mindset that fairness means giving all students same instruction, same assignments, same expectations. But true fairness or true equity means that to believe that each learner comes to us with different strengths, different needs, and different ways of learning. Today, we're going to explore how we can make that happen in our classroom using the help of AI tools. Let's begin by defining differentiation. Differentiation in education is the practice of tailoring instruction to meet the diverse learning needs of learners. It means that instead of teaching everyone in the same way, we need to adjust and modify our approach to make learning more accessible, meaningful for everyone, no matter their ability level, learning style, or background.
Hello again. So before we start differentiating in our classroom, every teacher must be aware of what and how, what are they differentiating in their classroom and how. So first of all, we have to decide on what do we want to differentiate. We can differentiate either the content, the process, the product, or the learning environment in our classrooms. So when we choose to differentiate the content, this means that we are providing a variety of material and instructional resources that can vary from texts to worksheets or even lab reports. When we choose to differentiate the process in our classroom, this means all learners are using the same material. However, the activity or the process that they are following is different. When the product is being differentiated in the classroom, This means the way that the students are assessed or the way that the learners are showing their work is different. It can vary from writing a report, for example, to creating a model, or even giving a presentation in the classroom. And of course, we can also vary the learning environment. This encompasses creating a classroom atmosphere that supports diverse learners. When the teacher decides on what he or she aims to differentiate, here comes deciding on what is being differentiated, on how we want to differentiate. So when we decide on what we want to differentiate, now we have to choose our target. Do we want to differentiate by targeting the different learning styles in our classroom? Do we want to differentiate to address the different interests of the learners, or by their readiness levels? In order for us to have a successful differentiation attempts in our classroom, we must also be aware of why are we differentiating from the first place. We differentiate for main different reasons in our classroom. One, meeting the diverse learning needs. As we all know, in our classroom, some students may need more support than others. We differentiate to increase the engagement in the classroom because learners are more motivated when we address their interests and their learning styles, support equity in the classroom, and this is by providing the tools for everyone to succeed. And finally, it also promotes deeper understanding. This is because it opens opportunities for critical thinking and problem solving.
Okay, now that we've grounded ourselves and what differentiation truly means, let's talk about how we can actually put that into practice. One of the most effective ways to differentiate in classrooms, especially in lower elementary classrooms, is by tapping into our learners' learning styles. It means how they take in and process information naturally. We're gonna tackle four main learning styles. There are more learning styles, but I think those are the most common in our classrooms: visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, and logical learners. When we're talking about the visual styles, these learners, they learn best when information are presented to them through images, videos, flashcards, graphic organizers, color-coded notes, and many other ways. Auditory learners, they thrive through sounds. They like to listen to storytelling, to rhyming notes, to songs, to get engaged in discussions, to follow verbal instructions. Kinesthetic, these learners, we call them movers and doers. They absorb information through physical movements. They like to act out, to role play, to perform hands-on activities. So everything that is movement-based. And logical learners, those are the critical thinkers, the problem solvers. They like to follow a certain strategy, to answer some questions related to the topic they are learning about, and so on. In a moment, we will walk through how we prepared an activity for each of the learning styles mentioned here. But before, we need to know how our learners learn best. Yani we need to know the learning styles of each of our learners. We're gonna see how we differentiated the process while still teaching the same content. Yani we prepared different activities, but we were still teaching about water cycle and the 4 stages of the water cycle. What we did to pre-assess our learners, because we are teaching third graders, the pre-assessment was a very simple questionnaire, age appropriate for them. We asked them simply, when learning something new, I prefer to, and they had to choose to look at pictures, diagrams, charts, or flashcards, and they were categorized as a visual. Listen to someone explain it, storytelling or songs, auditory, try it out myself or act it out, kinesthetic, solve problems or research questions related to the topic, logical. We gathered the information, we gathered the data and in a tally chart, and we divided the learners accordingly. Now, for those who chose to be visual, we prepared an activity using flashcards. They had to match the flashcards. They had to match each stage of the water cycle with its definition. And after that, they have to arrange the flashcards in the correct sequence to make the water cycle. Why it works? Because the information was presented in a clear, structured, and visual engaging way. The AI tool I used, Canva, someone mentioned it in the Mentimeter. It's it's free and very user-friendly. And it took me like less than 20 minutes to prepare the whole activity. Here you can see our students matching the flashcards and arranging them in the correct sequence, For the auditory learners, we designed an activity centered around a storytelling. The learners listened to a narrative version of the water cycle, where the whole process was brought to life in a story. It was so engaging for them. The AI tools use ChatGPT to generate the story. With the right prompt, this is what we're going to tackle later on with Ms. Lamar and Ms. Taghreed. And with one click, you can generate the story. It took me less than 2 minutes to generate the story. It was just so easy. And after that, I used 11 Labs, also another AI tool, to turn the text into speech. Here, you can see the students listening to them. They listened to the story like 2 to 3 times. They were so engaged. And after that, they showed what they understood by the video. Okay, maybe we didn't share you didn't hear the video, right?
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
Okay, just 1 minute, please.
We aren't able to hear anything.
Okay, you're not able to hear us?
No, I'm not.
Okay, yeah, 1 second. We'll try it again. Okay.
Brightly, and
What
Dewey
about now?
started to feel warm. Oh my, he said. I feel so light.
Yes,
Before
that's
he knew it, he rose up into the sky. He had evaporated.
So as I was saying here, they listened to the story for like 2 or 3 times, and then they showed what they understood by drawing the 4 stages and labeled them. And let's jump into the kinesthetic group. For our kinesthetic learners, we introduced a movement-based activity called Be the Water. In this activity, each learner became a water droplet and acted out the journey through the water cycle. So they start in the ocean, they stretched upwards for evaporation, they clustered and shivered for condensation, they gently fell like rain for precipitation, and moved for a corner of the room for collection. Of course, it was so engaging, and they understood it better because it's through movement. Here you can, and the AI tool used, it's ChatGPT. with the right prompt. It also took me like 5 minutes to generate the idea, and it gives you everything, the script, the materials needed, and everything you need to do it. You just need to apply it in class. Here, you can see part of the video.
So where are you now? You are droplets of water. Where are you now?
Ocean.
Ocean. Okay. And when the sun rises, what's gonna happen?
We're gonna evaporate.
You're gonna evaporate. Amazing. And when you arrive up to the sky, up, do you think it's hotter or cooler? Cooler. So what's gonna happen to you? Shiver, and you're gonna come together to form a
Cloud.
to form a cloud. Amazing. To form a cloud. And when this cloud becomes heavy,
It will rain.
it will rain. Amazing. It will rain. Amazing. And this rain, when it arrives back to the ground,
Okay, so this was a part of the video. And after that, they performed it in front of other groups. Now for our logical learners, for the logical group. As we said before, these learners are the thinkers and problem solvers. So we prepared an activity, and a research-based activity, where they have first they read like a small text about the water cycle and the 4 stages of the water cycle, and after that they had to research like 2 questions related to the topic. For example, one of the questions, what would happen to the water cycle if the Earth's temperature increases by 5 degrees Celsius? And they used Kiddle, a kid-friendly, safe research engine. The AI tools, also ChatGPT, to generate the research topic and everything. And here you can see them using Kiddle to research the questions.
And for this part of the workshop, I'm going to be sharing with you a strategy that we can use in order to differentiate instruction in our classroom using AI. This differentiation strategy is called tiered instruction, and it's a well-known differentiation strategy. I'm going to show you how we can use AI to apply it in a very efficient and effective way. Tiered instruction is all about designing different ways or levels of instruction to teach the same concept while addressing the learner's different needs. So in other words, learners will all be learning the same concept, but you will be offering different pathways that they can follow to learn this concept. Teachers can tier the content or the process or the product, and they can create different levels of the content, the process, or the product that they want to apply and use in their classroom based on the learner's different levels of achievement or their different learning styles or interests. So in this part of the workshop, I'm going to be focusing on how we can use this strategy in order to differentiate content in particular. So the types of content that we can encounter or use in our science classrooms can vary from lab reports to scientific texts or even worksheets or exercises. When the teacher chooses to differentiate the content in the classroom, all learners complete the same type of activity, but the content they are using is different. The steps that we can follow in order to differentiate content and using the tiered strategy and AI are the following. First of all, we have to define our lesson. By defining our lesson, we have to choose the subject, the grade level, the topic, and also we have to choose the learning objective that we aim to differentiate. After we choose the following, we have to also select the type of content we want to differentiate. So in this lesson, do I want to differentiate a lab report? Is it a scientific text that I'm using an article, or it can also be a worksheet, for example? Then there comes the most important step, which is crafting a prompt. This prompt must include the strategy that we are using, which is tiering, the type of content, that we aim to differentiate the subject grade level, the curriculum followed, the learning objective, and our target of differentiation. And before we move on to the other steps, let me show you an example of a prompt generated for this target. So first of all, we have to mention all of the following pillars: the strategy, which is steering in this case, the lab report as my content, the grade level, grade 7, and the subject physics, the curriculum. I chose the Lebanese curriculum. And we have to mention our objective, and finally our target. Mentioning our target is very important. And here, for example, I chose to differentiate, to target or to address the learners' different readiness levels in this case. Then after I crafted my prompt, I select a chatbot. We can choose any chatbot of our choice and input the prompt. Then when we receive the output, we review and edit the material so that it matches our specific needs. And here we reach the practical part. After I have different versions of the content that matches my target, now I classify the learners in my classroom accordingly, and I give each group of learners the content that matches their needs. In order to make things a little bit more practical and a little bit more clear, I'm going to show you how I applied this strategy in my physics classroom. In this lesson, it was a lesson about density, and I wanted to differentiate the content in this session. So I wrote the following prompt: generate a 3-tier differentiated activity from the activity sheet. Here I wanted to differentiate a pre-made activity sheet about density. I mentioned the grade level, the subject, the curriculum, and I also added the outcome that I aim to achieve. And finally, I also added my target. I wanted to differentiate in order to address the different readiness levels in my classroom. And after I input the following prompt on Gemini, and I also attached the activity sheet that is pre-made by me earlier. After I have received the output, I made very minimal edits, and I reviewed the content, and these are the final 3 versions of the activity sheet that I received and used in my classroom. Tier 1 activity sheet, it addresses the learners with low readiness levels. As you can see here, and if you have noticed, if you have seen the original one, here we have more steps. Some steps were broken down into more than one, and we have more details, and even some cells in the table have been filled for the students, which shows really high high level of scaffolding. Tier 2 activity sheet, I just used the one that was pre-made by me and the one that I attached with the prompt earlier. And for activity sheet 3 or tier 3 activity sheet, this addresses the learners with high achievement levels. As you can see here, the steps are really summarized, and there's no extra details. And the chatbot also added a challenge question here because we are targeting the learners with high readiness levels. So here we were able to target high cognitive levels by adding these challenging questions. It also enables the learners to apply what they learned in the previous steps to real life example or real life application. And you have to know that this strategy, or actually before, after I have received the 3 versions of this activity sheet, and after I finalized editing them, I just classify the learners in my classroom into 3 levels according to pre-assessments. One group of learners or one category of learners are low achievers or low readiness level. The other group are moderate readiness levels, and the third group are for the students with high readiness levels. And I just distributed I distributed the sheets to the learners accordingly, and they started working on them. Let me tell you that they needed very minimal interference from the teacher, and they really enjoyed it. Let me tell you that also this activity or this strategy that I'm sharing with you is not only limited to differentiating the content in our classroom. We can also use it to differentiate the activity that the students are doing or the process that can vary from cooperative learning to simulations and hands-on activities. My friend or my colleague Lamar is going to be elaborating on this part and showing you how we can use the same strategy in order to differentiate the process in our classrooms. And we can also use this strategy to differentiate the product or how we assess the learners. It can vary from paper and pencil to oral presentations or even visual representations by following the same steps I shared with you here, but instead of selecting the type of content, you just select the type of process or product that you aim to differentiate. And I'm going to leave the stage for my colleague Lamar.
Hello again. To add on to what Taghreed has presented about tiered content using AI, I will be focusing on differentiating the process of learning using ChatGPT as an AI tool. So I use ChatGPT to generate an activity for grade 6 learners to introduce melting point and boiling point as a first concept in our second unit, physical and chemical changes and properties. The prompt that I used was generate a 3-tiered differentiated interactive classroom activity for grade 6 science learners based on the Lebanese curriculum. The learning objective covered is explore melting and boiling points, and the tiers are differentiated according to the learner's levels. So ChatGPT has provided a well-structured activity that included clear steps, engaging tasks, and differentiation strategies to accommodate different learners. It has organized the content in a way that promoted learner collaboration, critical thinking, and inquiry-based learning. So ChatGPT has refined my ideas by offering explanations, discussion prompts, and reflection questions, which has made my lesson more interactive and more effective. My activity was divided into 3 tasks: Tier 1, beginner level task, Tier 2, intermediate learning task, and Tier 3, advanced learning task. To start with the beginner level task, I started with a discussion with the learners about what they think boiling point and melting point mean. Then I have shared the definition with them, and they sat with their group in order to represent the meaning of melting point and boiling point in either a drawing or a concept map. And here you can see different pictures while learners were working on representing the meaning of boiling point and melting point in their own way in either a concept map or a drawing. And learners who have finished Tier 1, the beginner level task, were able to move on to Tier 2, which is the intermediate learning task. In this task, learners started by writing their predictions about the melting point and boiling point of different substances, which were water, wax, butter, chocolate, and salt. And they wrote them down and organized them in a form of a table, as you can see in the pictures. After writing their predictions, they researched the actual melting point and boiling point of these different substances. And learners who have completed Tier 2, the intermediate learning task, were able to move on to Tier 3, which is the advanced learning task, where they researched the answers to the following questions. They were, what happens to water at high altitudes? Does its boiling point change? If I leave a piece of chocolate outside on a hot day, what temperature will it melt at? So here in this task, learners were able to be involved in deeper scientific discussions. After completing the research on the actual melting point and boiling point of different substances, the groups were able to present their own findings to the classroom. Our discussion focused on different things. One, on comparing the predicted and the actual melting point and boiling point. Second, identifying patterns such as why do metals have high melting points? Why does water boil at 100 degrees Celsius? Third, on exploring their misconceptions and correcting them. And fourth, on encouraging peer feedback, where learners asked questions, they offered insights, which has deepened their understanding. To wrap up the activity, and as a reflection, I summarized the key points about melting point and boiling point, reinforcing the definitions, and on focusing on real-world applications. So here, learners were able to reflect on what they learned, by answering questions such as what surprised them the most about melting point and boiling point, and where do they observe these phase changes in daily life. So this step, this reflection step, has ensured that learners consolidated their learning, but also related it to real-world context or applications. In this activity, the process of learning was differentiated based on my learners' levels. So to wrap up, for the beginner level learners, the focus was on them understanding the definitions of melting point and boiling point. For the intermediate level learners, the focus was on analyzing real-world contexts or applications. And the advanced level learners, the focus was on engaging them in deeper scientific discussions. Now, focusing on writing a prompt, Mr. Grid will be focusing on this activity with you as an application part.
We have a small activity for you to perform. We want you to write a prompt that differentiates content on a topic of your choice. So we want you to choose the type of content, and we want you to choose a topic. Using the tiered instruction strategy that we shared with you, ensure the prompt incorporates all of the 6 pillars that we discussed earlier, and they are also found here in the example at the bottom of the slide. And then when your prompt is ready, we want you to input this prompt into your preferred chatbot. So make sure again that your prompt includes all of the following 6 pillars: the strategy, the content, and it just change the highlighted part to the material of your choice. Enter your content, the content of your choice, enter the grade level, your subject, choose the curriculum, and also answer the outcome. And finally, also choose your target. What do you aim to differentiate for? Is it different readiness levels as the example here, or it can be the learning styles, or even the learner's interests in your classroom. So take your time, take like 5 minutes to craft your prompt and enter it to, or input this prompt into the chatbot of your choice. Then we want to hear from you about what you got, and if it can work with you, if you can use the following in your classroom or not. We are going to hold a small discussion after you are done with this activity. We want you to share with us how precise was the information that you got from the chatbot, if it's applicable to your classroom and school you work with, for example, and what do you think the limitations are going to be? We are going to be answering your questions afterwards, but I have a question related to the activity now. Can you please repeat what you do after creating the prompt? After the prompt is created, I just want you to choose a chatbot, ChatGPT or Gemini or any other chatbot of your choice, and copy paste this prompt there. And then just give us an overview of what did you receive, what did you get as an output. Okay, I think we can proceed. Were you able to try to apply it? Let me open the chat so that I can see. Okay, who would want to share their overview? Mira, would you like to share?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes,
Hello.
sure, I can. Okay, so I'm going to read my prompt and then I'll go over the chat's response. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so I wrote the same thing as you did, generate a three-tier differentiated interactive lesson for KG3, since I teach KG3, science lesson based on the Lebanese curriculum. The learning objective covered is identify the three states of matter, solid, liquid, gas, and the tiers are differentiated according to the students' different learning styles. I didn't choose readiness level. I chose learning styles.
Yes.
Okay. And so the chat gave me three tiers. He divided the first tier for visual learners, the second tier for auditory and kinesthetic, and the third one for logical and mathematical learners. And then they gave me the materials and the lesson dividing it into introduction, development, and conclusion. I didn't have time to read the full lesson, but it seems nice.
Did you find it useful?
Yes, sort of, yes.
Do you think it's applicable in your classroom?
It is, but we still have to get all the materials. يعني, when we put it into the chat, they give us nice activities, but not all the materials are there, or we have to change it, or it's not applicable with the group of students that we have, because we still have to mention that we have, for example, 26 or 27 students inside the prompt, and I didn't do that. So maybe when we add more details, it's going to fit more and be more applicable.
Yeah, you
If
need
I
to
add the lesson
maybe
in
to keep on modifying the prompts to be
exactly.
more precise.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think there's something to mention here is that once you receive the primary output from the chatbot, it can give you the first idea sometimes of what you can do and perform in your lesson. So you can just use the material that you received and then start building from there. Instead of just starting from nowhere, it gives you the first step in order for you to design your differentiated lesson. Thank you. Who would
No
like to
problem.
share as well? This was okay. Rita shared with us her prompt. 2-tier differentiated activity for grade biology student based on the Lebanese curriculum. The learning objective covered understanding the basic components and functions of a human immune system. The tiers are differentiated according to the students' different learning styles. And what did you receive?
It's adjusted.
It's adjusted, a very interesting activity that is very useful and applicable. This is
That's great.
That's great. Who else? We can hear from one more. Joanna Glayini, you are raising your hand.
Yes, I'm gonna read my prompt first.
Yes.
Okay. So I wrote generate a 3-tier differentiated hands-on activity for grade 3 science students based on the Lebanese curriculum. The activity is about the planets. The tiers are differentiated according to the students' readiness levels. Okay?
Okay.
So I received 3 activities. Tier 1 for beginners. So students who need extra support or are beginners in the topic. The activity is to create a simple solar system model using styrofoam balls, markers, paint, toothpicks, and a chart paper. But the instructions, the teacher has to show images of the planets and briefly describe them. Then they are asked to build their models and label them. Okay. Tier 2, students with average readiness or some background knowledge. They are asked to fill a fact sheet and do a mini presentation. So after they do a small research, they choose 4 planets to focus on. They will use books or the internet, the teacher's guidance to research facts about those planets.
Nice.
Okay, and then they have to fill the fact sheets.
Okay.
The fact sheets and do a mini presentations about them, about 3 facts about each planet. And tier 3, which is the advanced, so those who are ready for more complex thinking or challenges, build a detailed planet model with scientific explanation using modeling clay or Play-Doh, beads, crafts, construction paper, and research materials like the books or internet. So they will do in-depth research, and they will create a detailed model for one of the planets. They will add the moons, the rings, and they have to explain, they do a brief report and explain about their planet when they present it to the classroom.
Perfect. And do you find it applicable in your classroom?
Of course, it's applicable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very beneficial. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for everyone who has shared their feedback and their prompts. Now I'm going to share the challenges that we have faced in differentiation in our classes, starting with the lower elementary classes. 2 challenges were faced. The first one was classroom management. Of course, it can be challenging to manage different activities, especially when learners work on different tasks at the same time. Second, it was learner misidentification because some learners may not accurately identify their learning style, which is the most preferred for them. And learning styles can even change depending on the subject. For upper elementary classes, it was also classroom management in addition to crafting the right prompt. But after using the strategy that was presented by Tagreed and that you have also shared with us and tried, it has helped me generate the exact activity that I needed, that tailored for my learners' needs and that suits my learning environment. For the intermediate classes, it was a key struggle in the differentiation efforts to place learners at their optimal learning level. And it became clear that the first assignment was not always a perfect match because some learners needed more complex tasks, whereas others needed additional support. Moving on to the importance of reflection.
Okay, hi again. So, as educators, reflection is a crucial part of our practice, especially when it comes to differentiated instruction. So taking time to reflect allows us to improve future activities. How do we do that? By asking some key questions like, what worked well, what didn't? How did learners respond to the activities? Did they get bored? Did they grasp information faster and easier? And how we can enhance engagement and learning outcomes. And the action steps that we can take, gather learners' feedback through discussion, through observation, or maybe for higher grades through Google Forms. And we can adjust our activities, our future activities accordingly.
And I'm going to be wrapping up with the last slide. We have also shared earlier that there are many benefits for differentiation. Mainly, it falls in the why are we differentiating. Here comes the really benefit of differentiation. The traditional view of differentiation as an added burden demanding significant teacher time and effort has led to its avoidance, and it happens with all of us. AI's ability to simplify differentiation and reduce its demand presents a transformative opportunity for us all. Now that AI is making tailored instruction more accessible, what barrier prevents its widespread adoption for all learners? If AI is making the job really this easy, then why aren't we taking the chance to use it and tailor for our learners we can start with the simplest steps and we can start with the minimal tools, and it's going to get easier with time. Especially that there is a wide range of easy-to-use AI tools that can help in differentiation, as the examples mentioned in our workshop, like the use of Canva, 11 Labs, ChatGPT, Gemini, and there are many more, and I'm sure that also many of you are familiar with many more. What's important is that we follow the right strategies of differentiation with these AI tools to tailor for all of our learners. We came to the end of our workshop. If anyone has any questions, we would be very happy to answer you.
It was really amazing presentation. Thank you a lot for your efforts you did. Really, thank you.
Thank you for attending and thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I think we had a question earlier that we wanted to tackle by Mira Dimashqi. She was asking if the learners all reach the same lesson objectives. This question was about which activity in particular? Mira? I don't know if she is.
Thank you for this presentation. When we were talking about the three-tiered activity where each group did a different thing for the boiling point and melting point, I think, yeah, that was
this prompt, yes. And
yes. Yeah. So
my objective
about the three tiers, and at each tier, the objective for the first tier, the objective was for them to know the definition of the melting point and boiling point. But the other tiers, the objective was different. Here, the whole class didn't reach the same objective.
No, actually
And
here the
each
three
level,
tiers, the whole classroom reached the same objective, which was exploring melting point and boiling point. So the three groups were able to, at the end of the session, define what boiling point and melting point mean.
However, the depth of exploration here in Lamar's activity was varied. So each tier was able to explore the melting point and the boiling point, at least the basics. And then as we advanced from one tier to the other, the depth of the material and the depth of exploration only varied. However, they were all able to reach the objective, which is exploring and defining melting point and boiling point. I hope it was clear.
Okay, yes, that's very clear. Thank you. But I still have another question, if I can ask.
Yes, of course.
So when we were doing the activity on Minimeter, like the difficulties we face when differentiating, and in my answer, I mentioned space and resources and time. And I really wanted to ask you about those because we didn't really mention the difficulties we face in differentiation, because it's really nice to go on AI and get those really nice ideas. But when we're on the ground, there's a lot of difficulties that we face as teachers, especially in the space that we have, or can I now work with the whole group, or can I work with a smaller group? So we face those difficulties in the class, but also access to resources. Like sometimes AI might give me a lot of nice activities with materials that I don't have access to. So yeah, that's my question. How do I manage doing differentiation with the difficulties that I have that are space and resources?
Okay, so sometimes you have a certain restriction or certain limitation that you can't do anything about it. Maybe you can adjust a little bit the activity that you have chosen. But for example, when we applied it in our classrooms, we divided the class into 4 groups. 2 groups stayed in the class with a teacher. So sometimes you need to get the help, or maybe of your coordinator, the support, an assistant. I don't know how it goes in your school, but we divided, in our case, we divided the class into 4 groups. 2 groups stayed in the class with a colleague, and 2 groups we took them to the lab to do the kinesthetic activity and the audio activity. Sometimes it works, sometimes we need to change the activity.
So what's also, I would just want to add something more to what Lubna said. What's nice is that you can always ask ChatGPT or the chatbot to shuffle. So it can always give you more options, and you choose what works best to your classroom environment and to your school. And you can add more details in your prompt regarding the number of learners, the space that you have in the classroom. So we can always find a way in order to match the activities that we can differentiate to the environment that we are teaching in and the number of learners and so on. And regarding time, you also mentioned something about time. Actually, differentiating instruction, or maybe most of the time, it is less time consuming, especially to when I was working with the grade 7 learners about the physics activity. I didn't need to explain the instruction more than once. I didn't need to go over them for even the high level learners and the low level learners as well, because they were really detailed for the learners with low readiness levels. So no, it saved me time actually, instead of being more time consuming. So I just wanted to add to this part.
One more thing, Mira, as you mentioned before, you are a KG3 teacher. So maybe if you have a co-teacher, you can divide the class into groups. Some groups can use another free space, let's say the library, the lab, or any available space, and you can keep with you the learners that are in the kinesthetic group, so you can focus on them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much for your answers and for this
Thank you.
presentation.
You're welcome. Does anyone have any other questions? We would really be happy to answer your questions if you have any.
Thank you for attending, everyone.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Cool.